You are watching the AAPI Strong Heritage Month Business Summit, brought to you by National ACE.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our annual Heritage Month Business Summit. We are the National Asian Pacific Islander American Chamber of Commerce and Entrepreneurship, also known as National ACE. This Heritage Month is taking on a deeper significance as our AAPI small businesses and communities are emerging stronger as they recover from the COVID-19 pandemic and continue to counter the anti-Asian violence and hate across America. AAPI Heritage Month is not only a celebration of impact then and now, but an opportunity to critically reflect on reality, to engage in dialogue, and to discuss the challenges still faced by many AAPIs today. As National ACE's board chair, I am so proud of the work of our board, team members, strategic partners, and corporate sponsors who helped put together this business summit. We hope that you will learn something from our panelists and be inspired by some of these success stories and testimonials from business owners just like you. National ACE works closely with the White House, and we are pleased to have the support of President Biden and Vice President Harris. We are pleased to welcome Vice President Harris to our AAPI Heritage Month Business Summit. Ladies and gentlemen, the Vice President of the United States.
Greetings, everyone. The month of May is Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. It is a time to celebrate the rich culture and history of the AA and NHPI communities, and to recognize the important role these communities have played and continue to play in the American story. From the Chinese Americans who laid the tracks of the Transcontinental Railroad to connect the East Coast with the West, to the Sikh Americans who traveled to our nation more than 100 years ago to work on farms and in lumber mills, and who built vibrant communities up and down the Pacific coast. From the Japanese Americans of the 442nd Regimental Combat Team, who defended our freedom during World War II, and the tens of thousands of Asian American service members who defend our nation today. To the Filipino Americans who walked out of the vineyards and onto the picket line to defend the rights of farm workers during the Delano grape strike, and to the countless others who continue to work to lift up our nation. This month and every month, we must also speak the truth. Over the past few years, our nation has experienced a dramatic rise in violence and discrimination against the AA and NHPI community. Every person in our nation should be able to learn, to work, and to worship, and to live without fear. So let us recommit ourselves to combating hate. Our administration will continue to fight to make sure that all members of the AA and NHPI community have the opportunity to succeed and to thrive, because every one of us has a role to play in our shared American story. Thank you all, and take care.
Please welcome the National ACE President and CEO, Ms. Chiling Tong.
Thank you, Vice President Harris, for your continued support. Your presence and remarks mean a lot to us and the AAPI business community. Again, we are so grateful for all the participants who have taken the time to celebrate Asian Heritage Month with us. Today, we'll get to meet some of our elected officials, policymakers, corporate partners, small businesses, and entrepreneurs nationwide. This business summit will also feature a fireside chat with Yumi Hogan, First Lady of Maryland, and Kathy Cesarek, First Lady of Nevada. Also, a panel discussion on fostering growth and innovation for small businesses through access to capital, contracting opportunities, and a conversation with diversity, equity and inclusion experts. As you can see, we have a full agenda ahead of us. However, before we start our program, I want to say a few words in memory of our good friend, Secretary Norman Mineta. Secretary Mineta was a civil rights icon and a role model for the AAPI community. As a mayor, congressman, and secretaries for commerce and transportation, Secretary Mineta cared deeply for every person he met. Throughout his career, Secretary Mineta exemplified all that we try to be. He mentored 2 generations of Asian Americans and beyond, and also helped usher them into America's civil life. He lives his motto, climb the ladder of success with one hand, reach back with the other to help someone else climb with you. We mourn a great loss. We grieve for his wife, Danny, and his family. We celebrate a life well lived. Secretary Mineta leaves behind countless friends and a country better for having known him. His spirit is with us while we celebrate AAPI Heritage Month. Now, let us get started.
Please welcome the Honorable Xavier Becerra, United States Secretary of Health and Human Services.
Let me start by giving a big thank you to the National Asian Pacific American Chamber of Commerce and Entrepreneurship for inviting me to join you here today. Thank you for your strong partnership over the years on initiatives such as the White House Initiative on Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders, which I co-chair. Thank you, President Chilling Tong and Chairwoman Dr. Karen Ng, for your leadership of National ACE. And a final thank you to my colleagues from the Small Business Administration, Minority Business Development Agency, Department of State, and Congress for participating in this summit. The importance of National ACE can best be summed up by 2 numbers, 2.2 million and 3.6 million. That is how many small business owners you represent, how many people those small businesses employ, and quite honestly, how many dreams are on the line in your work. We're talking about Americans who rely on their jobs to put food on the table for their children. We're talking about young adults who rely on their incomes to get themselves through college without having to take out too much in debt. And we're talking about nascent entrepreneurs who themselves will one day start their own business, employ their own workers, and join the ranks of the small businesses you represent. What we have learned over the last 2 years is how interconnected our livelihoods are with our health. How one illness, one bad break, one lost contract or job can lead to economic hardship for any of us and our families. We learned that our health and economic prosperity go hand in hand. And what we are working to do at the Department of Health and Human Services and in the Biden-Harris administration is to apply these lessons to extend good health, well-being, and prosperity to all Americans. In the past 2 years, we've launched several campaigns to advance health equity during the COVID-19 pandemic for Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander communities. We've launched an Equity Technical Assistance Center to provide training, tools, and technical assistance for HHS employees to make sure that our policies, programs, research, and analyses are more equitable. And we've expanded culturally appropriate and understandable healthcare information for the AANHPI community, including releasing the Medicare and You handbook in Chinese, Korean, and Vietnamese. But the most transformative action we've taken to date has been to expand healthcare access for more Americans than ever before. The American Rescue Plan lowered or eliminated health insurance premiums for millions of lower and middle income families enrolled in health insurance marketplaces, including 197,000 uninsured AA and NHPI individuals. And today, in 2022, thanks to President Biden, the American Rescue Plan, and our colleagues at HHS, 14.5 million Americans have signed up for quality marketplace health insurance since November 1st, which includes nearly 6 million newly covered individuals. That means that 6 million people now have the peace of mind of knowing that getting ill does not mean losing their dreams of economic prosperity or small business ownership. HHS is also the proud home of the White House Initiative and the President's Advisory Commission on Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders, both of which I co-chair along with U.S. Trade Representative Katherine Tai. Through the White House Initiative, we're working every day to address the immediate impacts of the pandemic on the AA and NHPI community, from the rise of anti-Asian hate crimes to the health and economic disparities that have been exacerbated over the past 2 years. We're also working to tackle systemic inequities, including the lack of access to resources in AA and NHPI languages and the need for more granular data on AA and NHPI communities to better assess and address needs. We've convened roundtables across 10 federal regions to connect local communities with critical mental health, hate crimes reporting, bystander intervention, and economic resources to help small businesses thrive. Equity is at the heart of the Biden-Harris administration, and through the White House Initiative, we're also working across 45 federal agencies and offices to create and implement action plans to advance equity, justice, and opportunity for AA and HPIs. The AA and NHPI community has faced an uphill fight the last couple of years due to COVID and the blight of racism. But today, the resiliency of this community has never been clearer, and the work that you and so many others are undertaking could not be more critical. And as part of the Biden-Harris administration, and as the co-chair of the White House Initiative on Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders, I will continue to work alongside all of you so that the AA and HPI community is safe from xenophobia and violence, has access to good health, and can reap the fruits of their labor. Today, the AA and NHPI community has a chance to chart a new course and emerge even stronger from the past 2 years. Let's do it together. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sarah Hawk from National ACE, and we pride ourselves on serving our 100 AAPI affiliate chambers of commerce and strategic partners across these United States. Alongside our partners, National ACE supports over 20,000 AAPI-owned small businesses with technical assistance, business resiliency, stakeholder roundtable, and cultural sensitivity programmatic events. We continue to serve our AAPI communities through our AAPI Strong program. Here are some of their stories.
Hi, my name is Viet Pham, and I'm the owner of the Recess Room. We are based in Fountain Valley, California. Recess Room has helped nourish the community by serving 80,000 free meals since the COVID pandemic. We've partnered up with Moving Forward Together, and we've been serving seniors ever since. My experience as an Asian business owner has been amazing, especially in Orange County, coming from a high Asian city, ethnic city. We get a lot of support from all different types of people. Thank you, National ACE, for your continued support. Together, we're able to help small businesses just like Recess Room. We are emerging stronger.
I started Philip Manila at the height of the lockdowns. I remember seeing an article that talked about in some areas of the US, 20% of the healthcare workforce were Filipinos. This inspired me to learn more about a community, and turns out we are a large population with almost zero representation on the grocery shelves. So that fact really inspired me to start Philip Manila, which is the first Filipino-American food brand. I think anyone in the industry can tell you that starting a food brand from scratch is no easy feat. We have to deal with distributor issues, supply chain issues, retailer issues, but I'm very fortunate because thanks to the help of the FPACC, we've been able to use our network and their guidance to help us with these issues along the way. And we're very thankful, of course, for the entire community for supporting us on our monumental growth.
My name is Jessica Chen. I'm the Executive Director of Oakland Chinatown Chamber of Commerce. We are based in Oakland, California. Oakland Chinatown Chamber of Commerce is a nonprofit serving the community and more than 300 Asian businesses in the Oakland and San Francisco East Bay area. Now our projects are covering economic development, transportation and parking policy, pedestrian safety, crime prevention, hate crime, and much more. Thank you, National ACE, for your continued partnership. Together, we are able to help small business in Oakland, Chinatown. We are emerging stronger.
Please welcome the Assistant Secretary of State for South and Central Asian Affairs at the U.S. Department of State, the Honorable Donald Liu.
Hello, everyone. I'd like to begin by thanking the National Asian and Pacific Islander American Chamber of Commerce and Entrepreneurship for inviting me to join you today. And I'm grateful to President CEO Tong and Board Chair Eng for this amazing opportunity. Let me offer today some thoughts about immigration at a time when immigration is such a sensitive topic in our country. My dad came to the United States as a student in the 1950s from Taiwan. His American dream was to buy a car. He bought an old used BMW with the $2,500 he brought in his pocket. It was all the money he had in the world, and he taught himself how to drive in a church parking lot. During the day, my dad studied engineering at Oklahoma State University in Stillwater, and at night he worked as a bartender. In fact, he had lots of odd jobs before meeting my American-born mom and becoming a U.S. citizen. He struggled, and he worked hard. He worked as an HVAC engineer for 35 years, eventually working on a nuclear power plant, on scientific labs for Lawrence Livermore Laboratory, and on the Splash Mountain ride at Disneyland. When he passed 6 years ago, we took all of the grandkids to Disneyland to ride on Splash Mountain as a tribute to Dad. In February, I had the opportunity to travel to Silicon Valley to meet with Indian, Pakistani, and Afghan Americans to learn about their American dream. We met with business leaders from each of these diaspora groups and learned that every single one of them had been born in South Asia, had come to the U.S. as students or H-1B specialty workers, and had become part of this tech revolution in California. Many of them now are millionaires and have started companies in their garages that are now valued in the billions. In fact, 51% of all startups in America, valued at $1 billion or more, had an immigrant founder. This is a very different American dream than the one my father knew. It's an American dream that sustains our critical edge in innovation and entrepreneurship. So as our leaders craft our new immigration policy, I hope that they will leave space for our collaboration with students and specialty workers from all over the world. And in that spirit, the White House announced in January an initiative to continue to attract and put to work the smartest STEM students from around the planet. Under this initiative, the State Department is extending exchange visas for an additional 3 years for students doing research and training in STEM fields. DHS has dramatically expanded the STEM fields for which foreign students are able to work legally in the U.S. after graduation for up to 3 years. These now include 22 new cutting-edge disciplines like cloud computing and data visualization. In 2020, international students contributed more than $39 billion to our economy and supported 410,000 American jobs in cities and towns across this country. U.S. research institutions and businesses gain a competitive edge in our global economy as a result of some of the best minds in the world coming to our shores. Most return to their home countries but maintain close business, cultural, and personal ties with Americans. Some work legally for a few years in the U.S., and others, like my dad, become American citizens. My dad's American dream started with buying a car, but like many Asian Americans, his ultimate dream was to provide for his family, to get a good education for his kids, and to launch them successfully in the world. And for that American dream, I say, thank you, Dad.
Please welcome the Social Impact Officer at Al Roker Entertainment, Ms. Susan Jim Davis.
At National ACE, we care about our strategic partners. When they express an opinion, it is important for us to actively listen to what they have to say. That is the reason why this year we started doing a series of in-person roundtables nationwide. These meetings give our local AAPI business owners an opportunity to discuss and network with key elected and government officials and corporate leaders on current business issues that affect them directly. As of May, we hosted 7 roundtable discussions in Michigan, Florida, New York, Texas, Georgia, Washington State, and California. Our work has just begun. We will be heading to Colorado, North Carolina, Illinois, Massachusetts, and many more before the year end. The importance of these sessions allow National ACE to cultivate and connect AAPI local business leaders and bring back information back to Washington, D.C., so that we can continue to advocate for AAPI businesses on a national level.
Together we are AAPI strong. Together we are AAPI strong. VBI global, cùng nhau chúng ta làm được rất nhiều. Together we are AAPI strong. Together we are AAPI strong. Together we are AAPI strong.
Please welcome Secretary Elaine Chao, a distinguished fellow at the Hudson Institute, the 18th Secretary of Transportation, and the 24th Secretary of Labor. Secretary Chao was the first Asian American woman to be appointed to a president's cabinet in American history.
I am sending you greetings from the President George W. Bush Presidential Library. President Bush and his father, President George H.W. Bush, have always been stalwart advocates for our community. In 1990, President George H.W. Bush signed a joint resolution designating the month of May as Asian American Heritage Month. 2 years later, he signed it into law. Throughout this month, we celebrate the rich history of Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders in the United States, as well as recognize the many contributions of AAPIs. The Census Bureau notes that Asian Pacific Island Americans are the fastest growing racial group in the United States. I would like to commend National ACE's great efforts, led by President and CEO Chilling Tong, to work with over 100 AAPI affiliate chambers and partners to help AAPI small business owners. Many of the more than 2.2 million AAPI-owned enterprises are small, single proprietorships that need assistance to access available resources such as business development counseling, small business loans, and government procurement opportunities. Today's AAPI workforce is the largest it has been in American history and still growing strong. We will continue to further AAPI advancement in employment and workforce development. We will continue to increase AAPI participation and representation in the upper levels of leadership in the public and private sectors. In these unprecedented challenging times, we are also grateful for the outpouring of so many community partnerships in support of healthcare workers, hospitals, small businesses, and community centers by many AAPIs throughout our country. We are a resilient community. We have withstood many challenges in our nation's history, and I know we will continue to grow stronger. Thank you.
Please welcome back the National ACE Board Chair, Dr. Karen Eng.
Hello, my name is Dr. Karen Eng. I am board chair of National ACE, and I'm so glad that you're joining us here today. We're doing a fireside chat called Grace Under Pressure, and I have the pleasure of speaking with two amazing First Ladies. First, we have First Lady Kathy Sisolak from the state of Nevada. She is a Chinese American, child of immigrants, and an entrepreneur in the financial industry. She's been in the governor's office since 2018. We are also joined by First Lady Yumi Hogan from the state of Maryland. She's Korean American, also a child of immigrants, and an artist whose work has been in exhibitions and museums throughout the world. She's been in the governor's office since 2015. We're so glad you're here, and we're just going to get right started into our questions. So first of all, First Lady Sisolak, what do you see as the primary drivers of these AAPI hate and violence? And why do you think the violence against AAPIs is underreported and hidden?
Important. There's a fear of reporting a hate crime, and there's also some real barriers. And language is often a major barrier in those AAPI communities. And some simply feel nothing will come of it. We know there are crimes reported out there. We know they're happening, and we encourage everyone who experiences or witnesses violence to report it. I think are the primary drivers of AAPI hate and fear and lack. What I think is fear and lack of knowledge. People fear what they don't know, and people act out or lash out when they are afraid. We've seen it with COVID-19. And the aggressive anti-China rhetoric that reinforced pre-existing biases against Asian Americans. The misinformation and misunderstanding when the virus initially emerged led to fear, anger, and more distrust. I did want to mention the University of Michigan. They did a study last year, and they found two main stereotypes driving the anti-Asian hostility. First, the view of Asian American as perpetual foreigners. And second, the belief that Asian people are a yellow peril that pose an epidemiological, cultural, economic, racial, and national security threat to the United States. So we wanted to bring that study forward. I have also personally experienced anti-Asian hate. In my case, during a public meeting, an elected local county official used my Chinese heritage to spread lies and misinformation about my family in a public meeting, talking about measures put in place to protect Nevadans from COVID-19. So that was based on fear and misinformation. And while it was harmful to me, I think it was more harmful to the community who had to hear this, see this, and read these examples. Thank you.
That's horrible. Thank you for sharing that with us. And so we appreciate how you are the face of AAPIs in Nevada and throughout the country, and you're sticking strong and being very respectful and respectable within our country. So thank you. And as we tack on to that, in the context of anti-Asian hate, what do you want to do with the power you wield in the community and in your state?
In my role as First Lady, I've taken every opportunity to talk about how we can stop AAPI hate. And I am grateful to the groups and the organizations who are engaged in this very important work every single day. In Nevada, diversity is our strength. In Nevada, the growth of the Asian American population exceeds or outpaces the national average. And we know there are leaders among this community. I have always encouraged the AAPI community to use their voices, to get engaged, get involved in local politics and issues that are close to their heart, and to ask fellow community members and elected members, leaders to do the same. Ask leaders to center the needs of the affected communities, tackle systematic racism, and help address the need of survivors.
And I think that we've been doing that, but there's been a bigger push and there's still more work that needs to be done. So thank you for your comments. First Lady Hogan, can you talk to us more about what you think needs to happen for the AAPI community to have more capital and power in mainstream American culture?
Much like countless other first generations immigrants to this country, I have often felt a strong sense of responsibility to build a strong foundations, not only for my children, but for future of all Asian American generations that come after me. As the first Korean American First Lady in his state, and the first Asian American First Lady in Maryland, I feel the weight of this responsibility even more strongly. Hate has no home in America. Asian Americans, just like so many others, build their lives in the United States, contributing to and volunteering in our communities. Not only as the first Korean American's First Lady in the United States and state, but more importantly as an Asian American condemning and fighting against these discriminatory and heinous acts of violence will be a duty I carry for all lifetimes. When I wrote about my experience as an Asian American's immigrant, I want to give a voice to the millions of Asian Americans who have continued to experience the same frustration and express that are Americans. As Americans, we all share the same goal of achieving the American's dream. I wanted our fellow Americans to understand how much we will sacrifice to be part of this country, and the hurt we feel when we are attacked, whether physically or verbally, because of how we look. I plan to continue to advancing a deeper understanding and respect for Asian Americans and empowering other Asian Americans to speak up. And when they are targeted or mistreated because of their race.
Thank you. Well, it's both of you, one on the East Coast and one on like the West-ish coast, kind of hone in. We're going to solve this eventually. I'm all about call to action. So I have a question. We'll ask First Lady Sisolak. How can our viewers help bring solutions to the anti-AAPI discrimination, slurs, and bias-motivated violence?
I think first we support the needs of the API groups on the ground. The API groups in our community are the go-to places for refuge and resources for our AAPI people in Nevada. We can show our support as a society by donating money to these groups, helping with translation services, and if you are capable, offering support in legal assistance. Second, as First Lady Hogan has mentioned, we encourage you to speak out if you witness a hate crime or incident. Speak out against acts of bias and hate. If you find yourself witnessing something, either speak out or if it's safe to do so, intervene. Third, I think you need to report the hate crimes or incident. If it's a violent situation or safety is in danger, call 911. Reporting these incidents that you experience or witness can help bring greater awareness so that some of these hateful crimes can be prosecuted.
Thanks. Very, very good points. First Lady Hogan, do you have more context to how the viewers can help bring solutions to the anti-AAPI discrimination, slurs, and bias-motivated violence?
Yeah, I mean, we have to, right now, same as First Lady Nevada say that we have to have our stronger weapons against race-based hate or awareness, education, and understanding. And we have to get report. And too often what gets forgotten is that we are all Americans and are immigrants to this land. Whether our families arrive 1 year ago or 100 years ago, we are all immigrants at one time, just like so many others. So this is where Asian Americans have sacrificed everything to come to pursue their American dream. When we open ourselves up to become our open struggles of the family down the street who may be facing life in a new country, not understanding the language and the culture of their new homeland, but having come because they believe in the promise of America, it makes it harder to say, hateful things or commit violence acts against them. When we take time to understand their day-to-day struggles, dreams, and the ambitions, we realize there is more that unites us than divides us. When we educated ourselves on the history, culture, and the contributions of Asian Americans to the United States, we can better understand what there is not fear of the other, because there is no other. We are all united in the dream of America as Americans. However, we understand that this change does not happen overnight and hurtful. All these hateful actions still happen to Asian Americans every day. Understanding the challenges that newly immigrant Asian Americans can face navigating, reporting these hate crimes and the incidents in Maryland. We've taken some very important steps to help victims, including offering language service for crime reporting, providing a single point of reference for victims' resource, and doing outreach where the communicators are. Churches, community center, grocery store market. We have that as time goes on, these resources will be less needed. But until that time, we need to ensure that all our citizens have access to resources when they find themselves a victim of any crime.
Those are excellent points. Thank you for sharing that. One of the final questions I want to ask both of you is, how should AAPIs up our civic participation and become a more powerful political bloc in this country? I know, First Lady Hogan, you are a huge philanthropist with all these various causes that you are trying to empower and to bring awareness to. And so because of your civic participation, it does help you become more powerful. So if you can let us know how your efforts are being moved forward.
NASTA, 7 years, more than 7 years in my office. When I sit in Maryland, every time I have a TV interview, Asian, all Asian TV or radio, whatever, every time I say the first step is registering to vote. That's so we can voice up, Then during the 2020 election seasons, about 47% of Asian, Americans were registered to vote. But in comparison, 65% of Black Americans were registered, and 69% of white Americans were registered, regardless of political affiliation. One of the most important first step is to register and vote. So I think that is important. We continue to that campaign about that.
Excellent. First Lady Sisolak, you have a growing population of AAPIs in Nevada. So can you help us with some solutions on how we can up our civic participation?
Sure. I know in Nevada and in Las Vegas particularly, we have a strong civic engagement with the AAPI community, but we could always do more. As First Lady Hogan mentioned, in Nevada, we are registering more and more Asians to vote, to recognize the importance of electing leaders who will advocate for our needs. Again, we must use our voices and our experiences to work with community leaders and elected officials to make sure that issues that are important to our community are front and center when decisions are being made. And we know what matters in the AAPI community matters to all of our Nevadans. We all want to live in a safe, vibrant communities free of the fear of violence. Working together by getting involved with the democratic process, we can help achieve those goals for everyone.
Thank you. I think the first thing of registering to vote, understanding policies and how it can help our AAPI community is very important. And then actually voting. Once you understand the policies, brings those all the way full circle. So thank you so very much for joining us at National ACE's Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month Business Summit. We really appreciate all of your time and your thoughts and the work that you're doing in your states and throughout the country. So thank you so much for being part of our summit today.
Please welcome the United States Representative from the 27th District of California and the chair of the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus, Congresswoman Judy Chu.
Hello, and thank you so much for inviting me to join National ACE's AAPI Business Summit. As we celebrate Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, this summit is an incredibly important opportunity for AAPI business leaders to come together and discuss the most pressing issues facing our communities. As chair of the Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus, or what we call CAPAC, and as a senior member of the House Small Business Committee, I have greatly appreciated National ACE's partnership over the many years. The AAPI community has been hit especially hard economically by the COVID-19 pandemic. AAPI has experienced the highest surge in unemployment out of any racial group during the pandemic, largely because nearly a quarter of the Asian American workforce is employed in restaurant, hospitality, retail, and service industries that have been particularly hard hit. Asian Americans have also faced the highest long-term unemployment rate out of any racial group. For all these reasons, as CAPAC chair, I've advocated for funding to support small businesses and restaurants throughout the pandemic, and I've been happy to see that funding included in COVID-19 relief packages in the past 2 years. Just last month, Congress passed a new package to help businesses struggling after the pandemic get back on their feet, which included $42 billion for restaurants and $13 billion for other small businesses. It's also important that we support AAPI businesses beyond just pandemic relief. That is why, as Congress drafted and passed the transformative bipartisan infrastructure law, I pushed to ensure that AAPIs have equal access to the contracting and funding opportunities made available through the bill. And I was so thrilled to see that after years of advocacy, the law made the Minority Business Development Agency a permanent institution, which is especially important because it is one of the few federal government entities that is specifically designed to support AAPI businesses. This change will ensure that AAPI businesses continue to receive technical assistance, like connecting them to funding opportunities and providing financial counseling. As we continue to navigate the changing landscape of COVID-19, the work of National ACE remains crucial to CAPAC's efforts to ensure support for AAPI businesses. So thank you all for joining today's summit. I look forward to continuing our work together and wish you all a happy Asian Pacific American Heritage Month.
Please welcome back the Social Impact Officer at Al Roker Entertainment, Ms. Susan Jin Davis.
Last year, National ACE established the AAPI Strong Restaurant Fund in partnership with Grubhub, the proudly Unstoppable Fund with UPS, and the Inclusive Backing Grant Program with American Express. With the collaboration of our corporate partners, National ACE provided over $2 million in direct grants to struggling AAPI-owned restaurants and small businesses. Here are their stories.
Hi, my name is Connie, one of the owners of the One Dim Sum. And during the COVID, we do allow delivery. We deliver to Dallas, Austin, San Antonio. That made us survive. But after that, and then the government allowed us to open dine-in, and I was like, oh my God, we need the patio. We need to remodel the restaurant a little bit, but by that time I was struggle, but by that time I get a good news from National ACE. They gave us the fund. Oh my God, that's really helped us, and we used the fund to remodel the dine-in and build out the patio. And then right now, all my customers come here. They love our patio and sit down the patio and enjoy the food. So thank you again. Thank you. We really appreciate National ACE to help us grow out. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jinya Huang, and I am the founder of Break Bread, Break Borders. The Unstoppable Fund for AAPI Strong from National ACE has hugely benefited our refugee women in the DFW area. For Dallas-Fort Worth to receive this fund, the women that we are training to be community cooks for Break Bread, Break Borders have been tremendous. They have been able to utilize this and really further their culinary education and uplift their families, and it's a huge investment to the communities. Thank you, National ACE, for all that you do. We love you.
National ACE's mission is to serve as a strong advocate for AAPI business interests and affect positive change on all issues that enhance and advance the goals and aspirations of AAPI business owners, entrepreneurs, and corporate leaders. Duke Pham's life has been a hard fight from the start, but also an inspiring journey. He's gone from being a penniless political refugee to going on to starting 6 popular pho restaurants in the Seattle area.
We had the 5 containers that were stuck down there from November 4th. They arrived. And this was now, mid-January. The port, literally, I was down there during Thanksgiving, literally begging them, how can I get these containers out? Can I walk the port myself, find these containers that are buried somewhere in there? We call them daily. We call customer service, email them, and just receive the same answer every time is, yeah, when we find them, we'll call you. And that was it. So it was just buried down there. And until Schilling and the National ACE reached out, had somebody at the Department of Transportation called the head of the Port of Seattle's longshoreman organization, the SSA Marine organization. And yeah, those 5 containers were miraculously found and released to us within the next few days. So we're still around, thanks to National ACE.
You are watching the AAPI Strong Heritage Month Business Summit, brought to you by National ACE.
So my name is Samantha Berg. I go by Sam. I'm a managing partner at Next Street, which is a firm focused on mobilizing capital, customers, and capabilities to small businesses. I am also an entrepreneur and a small business owner. I have the pleasure of being the relationship manager on the Verizon account, and we are helping in conjunction with LISC and Verizon build out Small Business Digital Ready. I want to acknowledge that this month is Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. And Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders are part of the small business ecosystem, and an important one. In addition to Asian Americans representing 10% of all U.S. small businesses, they also are the fastest growing racial group and important consumers of small business products and services. Today, I stand with you to support Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders and condemn all the racism and biases that have existed for decades. So Verizon Small Business Digital Ready is comprised of 4 different components: curriculum, coaching, community, as well as incentives for small business owners, particularly those business owners who are people of color. We've had incredible success over the past 4 months since we've launched the platform in terms of not only users adopting the platform, but also engaging with our curriculum, our coaching, our community, and our incentives. This month, we also have a grant program. If you take 2 courses and or 2 live events, you are eligible for a $10,000 grant. We have a number of $10,000 grants to give. I'd like to share that the Verizon Small Business Digital Ready platform is available at verizon.com/small business digital ready. We are so excited to work with Verizon and to work with the Asian American and Pacific Islanders to help make sure that small businesses get the support they need. Thank you so much.
Please welcome the Acting National Director of the Minority Business Development Agency, Mr. Miguel Estienne.
Welcome to all the Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander stakeholders joining today's summit. I want to start by saying thank you to Schilling Tong and your team at the National ACE for the invitation to speak at the 2022 National AAPI Business Summit. Our agency deeply values our partnership with the Chamber and thanks National ACE for being part of NBDA's AA and NHPI Business Series for Heritage Month. In collaboration with the White House Initiative on Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians and Pacific Islanders, and other federal agency partners and community stakeholders. I also want to thank our Department of Commerce Deputy Secretary, Don Grace, along with Secretary Xavier Becerra, Ambassador Catherine Tai, Assistant Secretary Donald Wu, and Congresswoman Grace Meng for sharing time with us today. For those of us meeting for the first time, my name is Miguel Estienne, and I'm the Acting National Director of the Minority Business Development Agency, also known as the MBDA, which is a bureau under the U.S. Department of Commerce. MBDA has been and remains the only federal agency significantly charged with the responsibility of promoting and supporting minority-owned businesses. And that includes all of you here, AAPI businesses. You will be hearing more from my colleague, Joanne Hill, who is our MBDA Chief of Business Development, during the Access to Capital and Contracting Opportunities panel. This year's summit theme of Emerging Stronger is quite fitting, as we try to have an optimistic, uplifting tone to recognize the immense contributions of AAPI business community with entrepreneurship and American jobs, but acknowledge the challenges the AAPI business communities have had to face and overcome. MBDA seeks to ensure that during this pandemic recovery period, our programs and services remain at the forefront of supporting business growth and stabilization in minority business communities. We are committed to meeting the unique needs of our AAPI clients and the AAPI community during this time. We operate a national network of business and specialty centers. By specialty centers, I mean, for instance, the MBDA Federal Procurement Center, the MBDA Advanced Manufacturing Center, and the Export Centers, along with several other projects, including the Enterprise Women of Colors and other projects inclusive of the Native Hawaiian community. Our centers provide technical assistance and guidance in areas of business structure and business development for minority-owned business enterprises across the U.S. and the territories. I have some news to share as well. Our community and business development network is growing. With our recently announced grant opportunity, our MBDA national network will expand to 41 locations in 35 states. Now and through June the 2nd, we are accepting proposals to open and operate MBDA business centers in 6 new states: Arkansas, Indiana, Oregon, South Carolina, Utah, and Wisconsin. If you'd like more information or to share the news, please visit our website, mbda.gov/grants, for more information on these opportunities. Thank you once again, National ACE, for inviting me to be a part of this important AAPI Business Summit. I look forward to continuing our partnership and servicing the AAPI business communities across the country and minority business enterprises at large. Thank you once again.
Please welcome Deputy Secretary of U.S. Department of Labor, Julie A. Su.
Hello, everyone, and happy Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Thank you to National ACE for organizing this event, for being such an important voice for our community, and for advancing the economic security of not just AAPIs, but the communities in which we live, for supporting our entrepreneurs and the businesses they establish and the workers they employ. I had the opportunity to meet with many of you when I was going through the confirmation process for my position, and I'm grateful for your advocacy for Asian Americans to be represented at the highest levels of the federal government. As the daughter of Chinese immigrants, my mom arrived in the U.S. on a cargo ship because she couldn't afford a passenger ticket. And through my work as an advocate for immigrants, civil rights, and working people for almost 20 years before coming into government, I have seen firsthand just how challenging it can be to start over in a new country. And I've seen that the path to the American dream is paved with struggle, some luck, and a lot of perseverance. My parents worked minimum wage jobs when they first came to this country. As I was growing up, they owned small businesses, a dry cleaning shop, and a pizza restaurant. my mom eventually got a job working for Los Angeles County. That gave us medical insurance. And when she retired 27 years later to help take care of my daughter so I could work, she got a pension. This makes me a big believer in the value of a good union job for giving families stability and opportunity. I grew up translating for my parents, navigating the adult world and interactions like so many children of immigrants. And I learned that law is really a language, and those who speak it get to decide who gets what in our society, who gets protected and who doesn't, who gets to immigrate and who doesn't, who gets to work, march in the street, get married and who doesn't. And so I went to law school to become a translator in the language of law for those who were marginalized, discriminated against, and exploited. Some of you may remember a group of garment workers from Thailand who are survivors of human trafficking, who were brought to this country and forced to work behind barbed wire and under armed guard in a suburb of Los Angeles back in the 1990s. They have been told their whole lives to put their heads down and know their place. And it was such a privilege for me to be their lawyer, to fight for them, to fight alongside them for justice in the garment industry, and to change the material conditions in which they lived. And then to fight for them to be able to stay in the country as U.S. citizens. The resilience of these workers and my experiences working with them left a lasting impression, and I've continued to advocate for vulnerable and marginalized people throughout my career. The Biden-Harris administration is committed to empowering immigrants and other workers to advocate for better working conditions and wages, to advocate for good jobs, good working conditions, and strong worker protections, which are key to an inclusive, equitable recovery. So I call on you, our valued employer partners, to prioritize 3 things as we think about the future of our economy. First, equity. This is a centerpiece of the Biden-Harris administration. Our work to combat systemic racism and serve underserved communities was a day one commitment that our president made to the country. We have all seen the dramatic rise in anti-Asian violence. I'm sure it has affected you, your families, and your communities as it has mine. My mom, for a long period of time, was afraid to go out and take her regular walks because of the growing incidents that she was seeing and hearing on the news. But this is a long-standing issue, not something that just happened as a result of the pandemic. And I was actually working on documenting hate crimes in the 1990s. But in the 1 year since the organization called Stop AAPI Hate started to document these incidents, in that 1 year, there were more cases of anti-Asian incidents than in the 10 years that I was tracking this many, many years ago. And AAPI-owned businesses have also been attacked. So your work as national ACE in this space is incredibly important. And this administration stands with you in standing up against racial bias, discrimination, and the knowledge that anti-Asian words are often associated with anti-Asian violence. So we know leadership matters and your leadership matters. Second, job quality. I call on you to work alongside the Department of Labor and the entire administration to use your power and your voice to raise the floor, to provide jobs that give living wages, health insurance, benefits, and dignity and respect for workers. We know that most Americans worry about their ability to save enough for a secure retirement. And we also know that the most effective way for people to save for retirement, whether they are business owners or workers, is through a retirement plan. Employers who offer retirement benefits make themselves more attractive to workers. And the ability to bring in and retain good people is always important, but especially so in the tight labor market we currently have. The U.S. government offers significant subsidies to incentivize employers to offer retirement plans and offer ways for people to save. The Department of Labor has resources to help businesses understand your options, and we want to be sure that this community is taking advantage of these resources. We're also prioritizing cultural competency and language access so that these resources are available in a variety of Asian languages. And third is community. We have certainly seen through a global pandemic how much our lives are dependent on the choices that others make. We have seen both tragedy and inspiration in the ways that people step up to care for one another. We need to build an economy now in which we leave no one behind. This is about Asian businesses and Asian workers, and it's about communities that have long been excluded from prosperity and security, even in good times. For me, this means that we have to use this moment to make sure that we are also doing right by the African American community, by Black workers, Black business owners, and Black families. By just about every measure, Black families have lower levels of income, wealth, and opportunity. As an Asian American leader, I think there's real power in being clear that this is not acceptable and that our fortunes as a community are tied to the well-being of other communities, including African American, Latino, LGBTQ, and so many others. African Americans fighting for civil rights in the 1960s opened the door to immigration laws that changed the face of Asian America in the 1970s and 80s. And this is a debt that I believe our community owes. The Department of Labor is committed to working side by side with you to seize the once-in-a-generation opportunity we have now to reimagine our economy, to build strong pathways to good jobs in all communities, and to support businesses who know every day that the health of a company is reflected in the health of your workers. We have a lot of work to do in this country. I'm extremely honored to be invited to speak, not only as the Deputy Secretary of Labor, to be a part of this event, but also as a member of the AAPI community myself. Thank you for letting me help kick off AAPI Heritage Month with all of you, and let's get to work.
Please welcome back the National ACE Board Chair, Dr. Karen Ng.
Our first panel discussion is about fostering growth and innovation for small businesses through access to capital and contracting opportunities. We are delighted to have Joanne Hill from the Minority Business Development Agency, Regional Administrator Jerry Aglipai from the Small Business Administration, and Paul Diesel-Cohen from PayPal joining us today. To help us kick off the discussion, please welcome our moderator, the Senior Vice President for External Engagement at Wells Fargo, Ruben Bareilles.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us. I'm Ruben Bareilles with Wells Fargo and excited to be part of this panel, which is going to address the issue that's important to so many entrepreneurs and small business people is access to capital and where do you begin? It's a long conversation, but we're going to fit it into a very short amount of time. We have fantastic panelists with Joanne Hill from the MBDA, Jerry Aglipai from the SBA, and Paul Diesel-Cohen from PayPal with us. So, and I'm wondering if our panelists can share with the viewers, you know, where do you begin? How do you become eligible to even apply, and where would you apply for capital? So would love your perspectives. Jerry, could you give us start us off here?
Hi, I'm Jerry Aglipai, Regional Administrator of Region 5 of the Small Business Administration. The Small Business Administration is a federal government agency dedicated to solely supporting small business owners to start their business, grow their business, sustain their businesses in America. We are here to help business owners create jobs, income, and grow wealth. Owning a small business is the next best way to building wealth in America, next to owning a home. But people don't know how to start it and to operate it and find the working capital that they need. So we're here to open the doors for that. The Small Business Development Centers are a wonderful no-cost resource to find the free assistance and counseling that they need, cohort training classes, develop skills of creating a business plan, understanding their business finances, and actually to make it all run as an engine, accessing that capital, but also absorbing that capital. Where do you start is also understanding what your assets are to start a business. Is the money that you have to invest in that business, and where you are in your business model as a risk category. Those are what we call it businesses that lenders and equity investors would assess as to what is the risk category of how they would assess capital that would be deployed to them. Credit is also an issue of how you would also access capital. The small business development centers, and include also women's business centers, can help business owners understand what capital they need, what is their risk category, and how to manage their credit. Credit can be a divide if they don't know how to manage their personal credit. And I'm talking FICO score, not your business credit. Every lender that is out there is always going to look at the personal FICO score, even if it's a $100 million revenue business, because your business is you. It's your character as well, and how you manage that credit also is an indicator of how well you might also be managing your cash flow. So what category of risk are you in? And then what would happen is that the resource centers and the staff there, who are actually also accredited and certified every year, would help to identify and navigate a business owner as to finding the proper type of funding that matches their business need and that owner's ability to pay it back as well. Because we want to make sure that you have the ability to also pay back loans that you are taking out to grow your business. We want to make sure that you also have the ability to continue supporting yourself and that you're not getting into a predatory product as well. So that's where we would recommend a person start. Another one that we would recommend they start is they can go to what we really happily kicked off 2 weeks ago, is the Small Business Digital Alliance, which partners such as PayPal are a part of, where they can actually access tools online, digitally online, as to what are the digital tools that they can access for payment systems once they do get that capital, how to manage that cash as well.
Thank you for that. Joanna, I'm wondering from your perspective, what would you tell entrepreneurs or small business people in terms of what they need to be eligible for working capital?
I would say that first you have to understand what working capital is, right? Mm-hmm. You need to understand first that working capital really is like a form of short-term financing for business owners that can be used to cover operational expenses. And for those businesses that are really looking for an occasional cash infusion to stay afloat, oftentimes. Sometimes they might need it for seasonal business operations, if you will. But the other thing you need to understand are the common types of working capital that's available, right? And so there are term loans that are available. There are lines of credit that are available with traditional banks. There's, of course, my dear friend Jerry just talked about SBA's loans, the 7A loan, of course, notably, and invoice financing or accounts receivable financing. Mm-hmm. Some call the other side of the invoice financing factoring. And so I would say that the business owner really needs to get with, and I would be remiss if I didn't say it, for those who qualify for MBDA's business services, and we help all businesses. We're a public servant organization. But MBDA business centers are located in 35 states across the United States. They provide facilitation of access to both traditional as well as alternative sources of capital. And we are expanding our footprint to 6 additional states, but our business centers have business consultants who specialize in helping firms with this working capital. It is absolutely needed. And of those types that I just talked about, they will be able to help you through an assessment of where your business is at a given point in the life cycle of the business to determine the best fit for you.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for that. I encourage folks to get in touch with your agency on that. Paul, from your perspective, PayPal, private industry, what's your recommendation to folks who are interested in getting access to working capital?
Once you sort of have that that picture in your mind of what is appropriate for your business, Then it kind of depends on, what type of capital you're looking for, and what stage your business is at in development, and also, where you want to apply. Some people might have a relationship with a bank or a CDFI or an MDI. Other people, might be looking for more flexible options. One of the things that PayPal has been doing since 2014 is offering 2 different working capital products that are really flexible and offered to, really geared towards the smallest and most underserved segment of small businesses that are out there. For instance, one of the things that Jerry mentioned is that every lender is going to look at your FICO score. But actually for our PayPal working capital product, we do not look at your FICO score. We actually look at your PayPal sales history. So you do have to be an existing PayPal business customer, but only for a period of 90 days before being eligible to apply for that PayPal working capital loan. And it's just a fixed term loan that's repaid through a percentage of your sales. So no late fees. If you're a seasonal business, as you mentioned before, you might pay off more one month. And then if you have a slow sales month, you pay less that month. And there's no penalty for that. And then we have a PayPal business loan product, which is for all small businesses, regardless of if you're an existing PayPal customer. And, that does get into some of the more traditional credit checks that Jerry mentioned. But again, I think that one of the advantages and one of the reasons that we're able to reach some of these underserved communities is that it's a really fast and easy online application that is very straightforward, fixed term loan, nothing in the fine print. I think that there are a lot of resources out there, including representatives on our credit team at PayPal, who are there to really talk you through the journey, because in the end, it's all going to be about tailoring something for your business.
Great. That's fantastic. So I'm going to ask you all I want a quick response. Someone's, an entrepreneur, small business person looking for working capital, just trying to figure out the landscape. Again, you've gone through it, but if you were going to refer them to 1 or 2 different websites or places to go, where would you recommend? So Paul, you're on the screen. I'll start with you.
I think that our PayPal working capital and PayPal business products are really great and have a historic, positive rating with our small business customers in terms of their flexibility and fairness.
Jerry, what's your recommendation? 1 or 2 websites folks should go to check out?
Well, definitely SBA.gov, our lendermatch.gov, which will match to the lenders of the banks, CDFIs, which Paul mentioned. If people don't know what a CDFI is, they're a nonprofit lender that is actually supported also by the U.S. Treasury, and they provide loans to those business owners who are starting up, and their credit may not be that great, and they may not have shown production yet, but they show a lot of promise. So those are the to have that lender match at SBA.gov would be key to find those lenders fitting who they are, but also their ability to pay back, as Paul said. It's a wonderful products that we've all mentioned, including what PayPal is. But the key takeaway is, what is your fit for your business and your ability to pay back, and finding a counselor from an SBA affiliated partner, such as an SBDC, will help them decide, what loan fits best. So lendermatch at SBA.com.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. And Joanne, what's your recommendation?
Yes, my recommendation is to visit MBDA.gov. That's Minority Business Development Agency.gov. Those 35 business centers that I talked about, those are our flagship business center programs. Reach out to them and connect with our Equity Multiplier Project if you're looking for private equity. They are phenomenal. We launched that program last week in collaboration with the SBA, of course, and a couple of other very significant partners. And the second website, I don't really have a website, Ruben, per se, but I would encourage folk to not underestimate community lenders and community bankers. Those are the people that you get to know. They are willing to make exceptions, okay, because you have banking relationships with them. And that goes a long way if you're a business owner. And they really are seeking to step up their game to meet Community Reinvestment Act, right, criteria and goals that they have. They're not going to, bend to their, detriment, if you will, to help.
Right.
But what they will do is they allow a little more margin for frailty if they get to know you and you're in their community and you're helping the local economy.
Fantastic. That's a great recommendation. Thank you. So I've got a last question for you all in terms of, we're talking to a lot of Asian API, small business owners, entrepreneurs. Sometimes there are barriers related to language and other kinds of barriers. Any suggestions for where they might get help in terms of, assistance with going through this process of looking for capital? Joanne, any recommendations there?
I think that companies are going to have to start investing in language translation services and leveraging technology to be able to help individuals who need help with language translation, right? So that they can still do business with them. That is my best advice to companies today. That's a big push that we have. Yeah. I have to tell you, with government, language translation and offering that for all things that we do is high on the list of priorities.
Great. Thank you for that. Jerry, any suggestions from you in terms of assistance, especially language specific?
Yes, thank you for that. Our SBDC network, of course, they are partners on the ground in the community that can help offer language translation. I myself have partnered with many of them and actually having dual language translations when they've done training on access to capital as well. The other one with the SBA is that we're really excited of a pilot program that we launched called the Community Navigator Pilot Program this past fall. And that is a program in which we are actually creating a stronger ecosystem on the ground, wherein we connect with community-based organizations, whether it be business development organizations or community organizations that are mutual aid groups and such. We're meeting people where they're at, such as AAPI entrepreneurs, who can help business development organizations translate pieces of information and conduct that translation services, whether in-person training or for collateral materials as well. And then, of course, there's National ACE Chamber. They have a wonderful network of entrepreneurs and supporters within ACE Chamber who can also help provide that assistance for language translation. I would say most AAPI business chambers, development groups are actually embedded in their community for that language translation.
Great point. Paul, any thoughts from your perspective?
PayPal, fortunately, is a global company. So we do have customer service reps all over the world and do language matching for when a customer needs it, and language translation services online as well for your website.
Fantastic. Great. Well, it looks like we're out of time. I want to thank you all for providing this incredible information that hope will help many of the entrepreneurs and small business people out there who are on a journey to access working capital, and hopefully they can use some of the advice that you gave today to help them do that. So thank you all for joining today, and look forward to the rest of the conference. Thanks.
Please welcome the Honorable Don Graves, Deputy Secretary of the United States Department of Commerce.
On behalf of the U.S. Department of Commerce, it's my honor to wish you a happy AAPI Heritage Month. And thank you to National ACE for supporting AAPI entrepreneurs and businesses across the country. As a descendant of one of America's first minority patent holders, I understand the importance of supporting minority entrepreneurs, innovators, and businesses. I also know that the pandemic has been a difficult time for the AAPI community. The Commerce Department joins you in condemning AAPI hate. We have one overarching goal at our department: to improve America's competitiveness so that our workers and companies succeed in the global economy. And equity underpins every aspect of what we do. This pursuit of equity is not just the right thing to do, It's the right thing to do for our economy. That's why we're pleased that President Biden's bipartisan infrastructure law made the Commerce Department's Minority Business Development Agency a permanent part of the federal government. This means we'll have more resources to support our minority-owned businesses, and it will allow MBDA to expand its geographic reach through regional MBDA offices and continue its track record of success. As you know well, MBDA provided grant funding to National ACE that helped AAPI business owners apply for federal resources and navigate the changing economy in the wake of the pandemic. Thank you for being good stewards of this federal funding. Last year, MBDA awarded nearly $4 million in federal funding to establish the MBDA American Indian, Alaska Native, and Native Hawaiian projects. This initiative is supporting tribal and Native business growth in 3 areas: innovation and entrepreneurship, strategic planning, and transformative projects. MBDA also awarded a grant to the University of Hawaii, a Native Hawaiian serving institution, to operate Minority Colleges and Universities pilot project. The project is laying the foundation for a future generation of entrepreneurial leaders and innovators. And for AAPI Heritage Month, MBDA is organizing the AA and NHPI Business Series with panels focused on access to capital, procurement, and data and research. Let me thank you again for your work advocating for AAPI businesses across the country. I hope you'll continue to view MBDA and the entire Commerce Department as resources and allies. Together, we can continue supporting AAPI innovators and entrepreneurs and secure an equitable and prosperous future for all Americans. Thank you.
You are watching the AAPI Strong Heritage Month Business Summit, brought to you by National ACE.
Hello, everyone. I'm Daniel Oliver, Chief Operating Officer at National ACE. Our next panel discussion is on diversity, equity, and inclusion, also known as DE&I. Diversity, equity, and inclusion is more than policies, programs, or headcount. It is about a foundational transformation of mindsets and relationships. It is about renewed and consistent commitments to diversifying not only the look of the office, but also the values and the culture. Employers committed to equity also tend to outperform competitors by nurturing the unique perspectives of their team members and creating environments where everyone can thrive. To facilitate this panel, please welcome Susan Lee from EY Parthenon.
Thank you, Daniel. Good morning. My name is Susan Lee. I'm a partner at EY Parthenon. A little bit about me. I'm a working mom with 2 teenage daughters, and I've been advising clients on M&A and commercial transformation in the last 20 years. In addition, I currently lead the Professional Women's Network at EY Parthenon. Today, we have an amazing panel on diversity, equity, and inclusion, where we will be talking about DEI trends and lessons learned that could directly impact your business. Joining us today are Venna Tran, who is the Director of Community Engagement at Nielsen, and Tony Gladney, the Vice President of National Diversity Relationships at MGM Resorts International. Venna and Tony, it is truly my honor to have this very important conversation with both of you today. Before we dive right into the topics, could you spend a couple of minutes telling us about your story and also your role in driving DEI in your organization and your clients? Tony, you want to start first?
Yes, I'd love to. It's good to be here with you, Susan. And my story starts out with really a background where I had a natural diversity intersectionality, and that was in athletics. Being a part of teams, being a part of, really being able to get in the trenches, and no matter what your race, no matter what your religion, you were in the battle together. And so I learned very early, how important really an appreciation of, all is. And then coming to an area to go to college like Las Vegas, where there's tourists that come from all over the world that, drive consumerism to the hospitality and gaming industry, I was able to see that firsthand. And so my personal experience with being able to see that actually launches me into really a career from a community affairs perspective, from a diversity perspective, and really being able to be a part of the firsts in the industry to be able to be involved in diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. So that's a little bit about my personal journey into where I've been, how I naturally was able to really go into a direction to be a part of what I'm doing in the company and the industry that I'm in.
Thank you, Tony. It's great to hear your first of a lot of these initiatives. I have a question coming up, and I would love to hear your comments and perspective on that. How about you, Vanna?
Thank you, Susan. And first of all, I want to thank everyone that's on the call today, especially all National ACE team for always being amazing in what they do. And I'm very appreciative to be on this panel today to speak with Susan as well as Tony to share kind of also our journey, what Nielsen does for DE&I efforts as well. So a little bit about my story, similar to Susan, I'm also a working mom of two. Mind you, my children are much younger. Mine are 8 and 5, so I'm learning all the struggles every single day. And also similar to Tony, I think diversity was something that was just a part of being who I am as an Asian American. Actually, I'm Asian Canadian. I'm from Canada. And my story really is the story of many immigrants. My parents are from Vietnam. We left on a boat many years ago, and I was 1 year old. I think growing up, I didn't realize what DE&I as we know it today is because of all the similar stories and struggles you hear of the underserved communities as we were growing up, if you think back like 30, 40 years ago. Now being in a space where I work with Nielsen in community engagements, it has been fantastic for me. So I'm very excited to be a part of today's conversation.
Thank you, Vanna. So as an immigrant from Hong Kong, it's very similar to you, Vanna, also an immigrant, and also as an Asian woman partner in consulting, DEI is also near and dear to my heart. And over the course of 20 years in my career, I've participated and actually also helped standing up a lot of DEI efforts across small and large organizations. And then depending on where the journey of the organization is, I often hear 3 different types of questions from the leaders. One is, why should I care? Then is, how do I start? And then the third question is, how should I prioritize? Because let's face it, everyone has limited resources and there's only limited amount of time. So what drives the biggest impact? And perhaps to start with the first question, a very common comment, I'm sure you have heard this too, is, hey, we hire and promote the best people for the job, regardless of race and gender. Why do I need to start a separate DEI program? And I'm sure, Tony, since you have started, you're the first of many initiatives. I'm sure you've heard a comment like this before. How do you respond to that?
It's a great question, Susan. And I think many companies today are faced with really a couple of scenarios in starting a diversity initiative. Either initially they really see the natural priority as far as in regards to their customer base, maybe specific internal input. Maybe they see a scenario where they believe that by being able to advertise, market, to be able to have specific initiatives, maybe from a procurement perspective, and that there are specific percentages of segments of populations that they know that they need to touch. That's the first scenario. The second scenario that we hope that, there have been some situations where you've had these scenarios where you get external pressure. Back in 2000, when we started our diversity initiative, we had a high customer base from the Far East. We had a far customer base that even shared with us and that even gave us input to say things like, well, as far as your lion, probably not a good idea to have people walk through a lion's mouth. And not only does it benefit your customers, your shareholders, your stakeholders, it benefits from a business standpoint as far as really making sure that you maintain and you grow your customer base. I think that would be pretty much I think the basis of us starting our diversity initiative at MGM Resorts, as well as what I think the mindset is as far as your starts in this area of diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Thank you, Tony. The next question is about the lessons learned. And Vanna, maybe you can help us and share your insights with us, because you're driving a lot of the community engagement in Nielsen. From your experience, what can other companies learn from just creating, developing, establishing DEI programs? What are the things that you see common pitfalls and maybe things that you see Nielsen does really well and other companies can learn from?
I think one of the things is, as with most things for myself in the line of work I do work with communities and nonprofits that support underserved and underrepresented communities. I find with all projects, all tasks, I think preparation is key, and also getting support from top down. And as I mentioned, we have a very strong systematically integrated DE&I efforts throughout our company, everything ranging from our people to our supplier diversity, our community outreach, as well as our product and innovation development. But having said that, for me personally, in the work I do, when it speaks about reaching out to the community, it's always about organizations such as ACE that has the ability to reach further than what our internal networks could reach out to, and really being able to emphasize the networks that we have that support these communities. And also thinking outside of the box. I think a lot of times we think about DE&I just in our comfort zone of work. For example, working for me personally, for working with organizations, I recently started working with high school students that are in underrepresented communities, because high school students, they are at that generation that is, I think, really impacted about what happens in the DE&I space, and they will be the future of any business, anything in our future. And if we start as young as possible in terms of just building that importance, I think will lead to just everything being hopefully better overall. As these students grow, they could become a pipeline, not just for our business, but just for society in general.
Thank you so much. The last question, and this is for both of you. This question is, when I think about this question, is a tough one. How do you prioritize? Because there are really so many ways that we can drive impact. What are the trends and other initiatives that you see companies, maybe as MGM or Nielsen or other companies, are doing to support our DE&I communities, especially the AAP communities?
Yes.
So I can go ahead, Tony. Go ahead, Tony.
Okay. I think, Vanna, I think one, I think companies need to look, when you start speaking about prioritizing, I think, first of all, companies such as MGM and my colleague Vanna from Nielsen, I think companies really look at where they can make an impact, first of all. From our standpoint, I know that when MGM started our DE&I initiative, we looked at where can we make an impact in diversity. At that time, MGM built a lot of buildings. We participated in a lot of procurement and purchasing, scenarios. We hired a lot of people as we were building a lot of properties at the time. And we also were able to go ahead and we're a destination scenario. So how are we going to outreach to the communities where we operate, support those communities where we operate, and really make a presence to help individuals decipher for us as a destination company of entertainment to be able to become that preferred employer and destination of choice. So we focused on that. Also, what we have been able to do from a present day perspective is really galvanize our employees, galvanize those employee network groups to give us input on recommendations that they see as they're in the trenches on a daily basis, and really get their authentic input. And from that authentic input, be able to go ahead and deliver some strong business outcomes as they see these specific needs on a daily basis.
So for us here at Nielsen, when I think about all the work that the DE&I space still continues to have to do, for us here at Nielsen, we do measurement, and measurement is one of the key to our core business. And our measurement relies on panels, and our panels are geographically and demographically balanced to the US Census, for example. So one of the challenges we have is to continue to have that alignment of representation. So with the E&I efforts, we always continue to make sure that our field teams, as well as our folks on the panel recruitment side, keep up with all the different changing demographic bases of all the communities, because we want appropriate representation in the numbers, so forth. So for us, we continue to evolve with that. One of the things that we had done a couple of years back is launched what we called our Inclusion Analytics. And Inclusion Analytics allows us to take a look at the media landscape and to ensure that we are bringing to light the representation of underrepresented communities in the media space. And I think, Susan, when you talk about Asian hate, I think it is imperative that we see representation of our community on screen, whether it's on TV, streaming, even when you think about audio, podcasts. We want people to recognize the importance of being counted. And I think a lot of that rolls up to just outside of just Nielsen space as well. When we think about voting, I mean, just to allow people to understand the importance of being counted and being represented. So I think that's going to touch across all boards of companies at this point. And hopefully I look forward to seeing how DE&I continues to evolve for everyone.
I love this. Thank you so much for just sharing your insights, and I think also being very candid. So thank you for everything you're doing, and thank you for spending the time with us today.
Thank you, Susan, Vanna, and Tony, for that wonderful panel about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now more than ever, DE&I is a business community's greatest asset. There are over 50 distinct ethnicities and languages, with a total of more than 100 native dialects represented in the Asian American and Pacific Island community. Having talent and resources represented from our community gives companies an advantage and a fresh perspective on how to conduct business and be profitable for the long term. My name is Susie Felch from Aloha Fa'o, and I serve as the Executive Director and co-founder of Pacific Island Knowledge to Action and Pacific Island Chamber of Commerce that serves Pacific Islanders nationwide, and we are headquartered in Salt Lake City, Utah. PICTAR is a community organization whose mission is to help Pacific Islander communities by providing culturally relevant resources, opportunities, and services to help build alliances, bridge communities, and provide equitable opportunities. PICTAR is focused on providing support in following areas of economic development, violence education, and cultural preservation. Our organization represents close to 50,000 Pacific Islanders and Native Hawaiians, and we are proud to be strong partners of National ACE. Thank you so much for showing up to learn so that we all belong, so all businesses thrive.
Please welcome the United States Representative from the 6th District of New York, Congresswoman Grace Meng.
Hi, I'm Congresswoman Grace Meng from New York, and it's an honor to send greetings to everyone attending the National ACE AAPI Summit. As we celebrate AAPI Heritage Month, I thank National ACE for hosting this important event, which will help foster growth and innovation among AAPI small business owners and showcase the allyship and resilience of Asian American entrepreneurs. As a daughter of small business owners, I know firsthand the critical role that small businesses play in our country. They are the backbone of our economy. They enhance our neighborhoods and bring investments to local communities by creating jobs and providing important services we need. We must do everything we can to help small businesses thrive. Unfortunately, the COVID-19 pandemic wreaked havoc on many of our small businesses, with many suffering severe economic losses over the last 2 years. This is especially true for Asian American-owned businesses, which were the first to be impacted by the pandemic when scapegoating and unfounded claims about spreading the pandemic were directed at our community. To help entrepreneurs get back on their feet, I worked to combat both this discrimination and the economic impacts of the pandemic. My Hate Crimes Act was enacted into law, and I've sought to stop members of the public and elected officials from fueling this xenophobia and singling out Asian Americans and businesses with terms like Kung Flu and Chinese virus. I also helped pass legislation to provide small businesses with billions in coronavirus relief funds, including guaranteed low interest and forgivable loans. And I urged banks to assist with applications in order to speed up and streamline the process. I've worked with the Small Business Administration to make sure that small businesses have been receiving the resources to which they're entitled. I helped champion the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, which brought more than $28 billion in grant money to restaurants that lost revenue due to the pandemic. In fact, I recently co-sponsored a new measure that would allocate another $55 billion to replenish aid for our restaurants. Additionally, I'm continuing to push legislation that would require the federal government to translate basic COVID-19 materials into multiple languages to ensure language accessibility for business owners with limited English proficiency. From filling out applications for financial assistance to seeking crucial health guidance, language must never be an obstacle to businesses receiving the life-saving resources they need to recover from the pandemic. There's no doubt that small businesses are the lifeblood of our nation and the many communities in which they operate. They must receive the relief and lifelines they need, and I believe that government must be a strong partner in helping them get back on track. We must not abandon them in their time of need. We must remember that when small businesses succeed, America succeeds. Once again, I want to thank National ACE for hosting this crucial summit. Best wishes for a productive and successful event, and happy AAPI Heritage Month. Thanks.
I'm Janet Alakpala from the National ACE team. ACE NextGen was founded to foster the next generation of AAPI entrepreneurs and to increase AAPI representation in leadership positions across business and government. In the United States, AAPIs make up 6% of the general population, but they account for less than 2% of policy, business, academic, and corporate leadership roles. ACE NextGen serves as a platform for young AAPIs to forge their own path towards advancement with the support of a like-minded community. We at National ACE are proud to support the next generation of entrepreneurs. Please welcome the United States Trade Representative, Ambassador Katherine Tai.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me to join your 2022 Business Summit. The theme of this year's National ACE Business Summit is Emerging Stronger. It is an optimistic and hopeful theme that recognizes the resilience and strength that AA and HPI communities have shown over the last 2.5 years. It is a particularly fitting theme as we celebrate Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month in May. As National ACE, your affiliates and your partners know all too well. AA and HPI businesses and entrepreneurs have faced all kinds of challenges, including barriers to access to capital, the need for technical assistance, and competing in an increasingly crowded marketplace. The challenges have only intensified and multiplied over the course of the COVID-19 pandemic. National ACE's own survey found that more than 84% of Asian American and Pacific Islander business owners have been negatively impacted by COVID-19. And those negative impacts include a rise in anti-Asian bigotry and hate acts, none of which are new, but which have proliferated and worsened. And that is why National ACE's work is so important and urgent. By supporting our community's businesses and business owners, you are helping to address all of these systemic imbalances, whether it is by helping entrepreneurs find alternative sources of financing, providing virtual technical assistance on resiliency and recovery, or supporting capacity building. You are giving generations of AA NHPI business owners the assistance that they need. Meanwhile, National ACE is continuing its outstanding work to combat the anti-Asian bias that confronts all of us. The Biden-Harris administration has also made this a top priority. Last year, President Biden signed the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act into law. Our administration also established the White House Initiative on Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders, which I am proud to co-chair with Health and Human Services Secretary Xavier Becerra. This initiative is focused on driving a whole-of-government effort to advance equity and opportunity for AA NHPI communities. In our meetings to date, we have heard from leaders across the administration as well as key stakeholders on how we can use the size and scale of the federal government to help our communities. We know that when diverse perspectives are represented in the policymaking process, the outcomes are more equitable and inclusive. That is also an important value that drives our work at USTR. Too often, the benefits of trade do not reach minority-owned businesses and their communities. We are working to reverse that by incorporating the feedback and suggestions of these individuals throughout our work. I often meet with AA NHPI leaders when I travel across the United States. It could be a morning coffee with small business owners or a dinner with local elected officials. But as the first Asian American to serve as United States Trade Representative, and one of the only Asian Americans in the President's cabinet, I feel it is important that members of our community hear directly from me on our administration's priorities and how we are supporting you. That support complements the important work that organizations like National ACE can provide. You are building a supportive community that is helping AA, NHPI, and minority businesses overcome challenges while bringing together a coalition of private sector partners to assist in this effort. The successes of the AAPI Strong hashtag is proof that we can come together around a shared commitment to combat hate and bigotry. I look forward to continuing to work with National ACE and your partners to spread this message and lift up the successes of AA NHPI businesses and business owners. Once again, thank you for having me at this year's Business Summit. I wish you all a successful rest of your conference, and I look forward to talking to all of you soon.
You are watching the AAPI Strong Heritage Month Business Summit, brought to you by National ACE.
Like many of you, we are all anxious to have in-person events again. National ACE is happy to announce our 3 upcoming in-person signature events. This August, National ACE will once again partner with the Cal Asian Chamber to bring together a collection of influential, visionary leaders for a series of inspiring and timely conversations. Join us in San Jose, California on August 26th. National ACE will be hosting our in-person 3-day annual conference in Washington, D.C. The conference will celebrate business successes and address challenges that AAPI businesses still face with the global pandemic and anti-AAPI discrimination. Mark your calendars and join us on September 19th through the 21st. National ACE will be joining ACE Next Gen as they host the Unity Conference from October 13th to October 16th. Join us for an immersive 4-day conference focused on building social and professional relationships with like-minded AAPI entrepreneurs in Chicago, Illinois. We look forward to seeing you all there.
This concludes our annual celebration of the Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month Business Summit. Thank you all for taking the time to join us. As the fastest growing ethnic community in the United States, we are confident that we will emerge stronger and that our contributions will continue to grow and thrive in years to come. I want to thank all of our board of directors, corporate sponsors, and the National ACE team. We cannot do this without your support and dedication. Happy AAPI Heritage Month. We look forward to seeing you in person in Washington, D.C., September 19th through the 21st for National ACE's annual conference. Together, we are AAPI strong.